3.
Hi, it's Monday night, and this is Try Something New /Spice Club. And the first part of this here at Fairport Harbor Public Library is Lee explaining, Lee of Wild Sport fame I might add, explaining how to choose a knife and how to use a knife. And we'll talk about the spice part of this in a minute. And watch for a contest this week to name our new kitchen.
Ooh, okay.
Go, Lee.
Okay, we're going in
All
and
right.
out.
So, as Kathy said, I'm Lee. I'm going to show you just some super basics. If you don't have a good knife, if you might want to buy a good knife, I'm going to just give you a couple pointers. There's a billion different types of knives. I'm going to talk about two. I'm going to talk about a chef's knife and a Santoku. So these are both utilitarian knives. They'll do everything. You really only need one, and it can pretty much do most things you'll ever want out of a knife. So the difference, the chef's knife has a curved blade and a point. The Santoku is flat and just kind of rounded off. So I can use them both interchangeably with no issues. Some people prefer one over the other. So a couple things to note. One, if you're going to be shopping for a knife, you should go to a store that allows you to try them out for a couple different reasons. One, they're going to be balanced and weighted differently, so you want to make sure it feels good in your hand. And two, the handles are different. So these knives have what's called a Western handle. They're contoured and are more common probably, especially in America. But also, we have a Japanese handle, which is just straight across. So when you're choosing a knife that is of good quality, you're looking for something that's heavy grade steel. You'll see some terms like Damascus steel, and that just means that the steel's been layered. It makes the knife stronger, so that's one thing to look for. And then the other thing, and this is what I think is the most important, and it doesn't matter if you spend $20 a knife or $200 on a knife, you want one in which it's one solid piece of metal with a handle just formed around it. So it's easy to tell when you can see the metal on the end, or like this one, you can just see it running straight through. So this was all forged out of one piece of steel, and then they attached the handle to it with these rivets. And so I brought with you this knife. This knife came with this cutting board and also another knife for like $4. So this is not what I would call a high quality knife. And that doesn't mean it's not going to be sharp and not going to do the job, but what it does mean is it's not going to hold its edge very long, and it's going to be not as sharp for as long. If you get it sharpened, the sharpener might say, "What are you doing with this?" But here's the main thing that you need to know. This piece of steel likely ends right about here. If we were to crack this handle open, which we could likely do very easily, it's just a blade stuck into this handle, probably with glue, and that's as far as it goes. So you don't have the durability. It's a much lighter weight, which lightweight stuff is good sometimes, but it probably weighs half as much as this one, which is a heavier duty product. So that's it. Like I said, go to a store that lets you try them out. It is cute. It's got fish on it. It's a pretty color. There's nothing wrong with this knife other than if I used it every day, it would be sharp for about a week and then it would break at some point. So anyways, some stores, Crate & Barrel lets you test knives. Sur La Table is another one. They will get any knife you want out of a case. They'll give you a potato. You can chop it right there and you'll know exactly what you like. So when you're ready to chop, hold the knife firmly at the edge of the handle. The further back, it's kind of like in baseball. If you don't choke up, you have less control. So we're going to choke up on the knife. Make sure you have a firm grasp between your thumb and forefinger, and then your other fingers will just wrap around for stability. So they say it all the time, like on Food Network, but the knife is an extension of your hand, and the more that you practice that and learn that, you'll be way more comfortable with chopping. So
I've been holding a knife for my whole entire life.
So Kathy said she's been doing it wrong. This is not necessarily a right or wrong. It's just going to give you more control and possibly more confidence in the kitchen if you give yourself a little extra grasp there. So we're gonna just go through some basic chopping. We're gonna start with the easiest one. This is an apple that's about to go bad. So this is how I chop apples, and I remember I cut one like this one time in college, and my roommates were like, "What are you doing? Who chops an apple like that?" But this is the easiest way. We're just gonna go around the core. You don't have to mess with it at all. Give this to the squirrels, and then you've got your apple slices, and you can cut these into any size you want. So when you're chopping anything that has a flat side and a round side, generally you're going to put the flat side down. The exception to that is if you have something that has a tougher skin, like maybe like a pepper, because if you have a dull knife, it's not going to want to go through that skin, and that's when you slip, and that's when you cut yourself. So sharp knives can be scary, but the sharper your knife is, actually the less likely you are to cut yourself, because it's more likely to go directly through the food where you expect it to go and not slip one direction or the other. So you can cut these into any size you want. We'll just do basic apple slices. Then same thing, we'll move on to the carrot. Cut your end off. And then I usually cut it in half just so we have similar sizes. And then we're going to hold it on each side, slide the knife in between your fingers to cut it in half, and then you have two stable bases to put down on your cutting board. Now, whether you're using a chef's knife or a Santoku in this case, you're going to leave the point of the knife down, and you're just going to rock up and down. And you're going to push the food towards the knife. You don't have to move the knife laterally at all. It's just up and down rocking motion. And the same motion works with the Santoku. Here's the difference. When you lift the point, you can get a greater distance. I don't know if you can tell that on the camera. You can get a greater height from the chef's knife because of its curve than you can on the Santoku just going to its normal range of motion. So if you're chopping something that's tall, you might get some more clearance with a chef knife. But the Santoku, it's not a big deal to just lift it up a little bit. So again, it's just your preference. Claw your hands. So you put your knuckles, curl your fingertips under, so your knuckles are sticking out. You can butt the knife right up against your knuckles, and that way you're not going to cut your fingertips off, so you're using that kind of as a guide. Okay, so just to show you again, rocking, I'm not moving the knife, I'm just pushing the carrot under the blade to get it chopped. And just go as far as you're comfortable. If you don't want to get the knife any closer than this to your fingers, then don't cut it any smaller. If you are, then go for it and you can chop the whole thing. So I'm going to do an onion next, only because there's a couple ways to chop an onion, and everyone has different techniques. I'm going to show you my way. So onions have two ends. The root end goes in the ground. The tops grow green. So we're going to cut off the top. I should have brought two onions so I could show you both ways to do this, but you're going to get one way today because I only brought one onion. We're going to cut off both ends, again giving ourselves a stable base, and then we're going to cut it in half. So that makes it one, easier to peel. Just get rid of that whole top layer if you don't want to spend all your time trying to get the paper off. Let's go in the compost bin. Okay, so onions are cool because they're layered, it's like they've already done half of the chopping for you. So we're going to use those layers to our advantage. If you want slices of onion, same as we did with the carrots, just grip it with your little claw and slice down as thin as you want them, and then of course they'll separate into your slices. If you need to dice an onion, this is where those layers are really going to help us. We're going to go across the grain, being careful to hold it together. It'll be easier to slice if it's all one piece. So as you go down, I always kind of just move my index finger over to hold the most recent slice in place. So we've gone against the grain, and then we're going to turn it around. Then you're going to go, same as we did with these slices, you're going to make that same cut again. But this time, because we cut across those slices, we have little small onion bits. And once you get to the end, they might start falling apart. As soon as that happens to me, I just flip it on the other side, and then finish chopping, and then you end up with kind of uniform pieces. Now, some stuff it doesn't matter if all the pieces match or not. It might matter if you want everything to cook at the same time, and it might matter if you just like uniformity in your slices. So that's up to you on how much time you want to spend making everything equal. Cutting the onion like I just did will result in a couple pieces on the end that are a little bit bigger, so if that bothers you, just go ahead and pick those out and give them another chop. Okay, we have a sweet potato left, same as any potato. Again, we're gonna cut one piece off so we have a stable base to work with, and then make your cuts to any size you want. Once you have only a little bit left, again, turn it around just because it's easier to hold the wider end. But again, that's personal preference, figure out what works for you. And then we have 2 stacks now of 3 levels. If that makes you nervous, just cut one at a time, you know they won't move. If you're brave, go ahead and leave them stacked up. But again, be careful that you get through all of them and you hold them steady, because if I'm not holding this well and this top layer slips, that's when you cut your fingers. And that sucks. So, we're gonna do,
How often have you hacked your fingers off? Well, obviously not off, they're still there, but.
my fingertips are all still here. I cut myself somewhat regularly, but now the knives don't usually go through. Like, if you touch it on hot stuff, eventually you just have calluses that knives don't penetrate. I've got to really get in there deep if I want to draw blood.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah. So this is we've made essentially fries here. We're gonna be making. I'm not sure exactly what we're gonna be making, but I'm gonna dice them. So I'm just gonna
Something
go.
with garam masala in it.
Yeah, we're gonna be using garam masala, our first Spice Club spice. So we just got dices there and a few slices of onion. We'll deal with those later. But again, going through the stacks and then across, trying to keep the sizes about the same so that they cook uniformly. If you have big chunks mixed in with little chunks, your little chunks will be mush and your big ones will still be raw, and we don't want that. That's never the best technique for cooking. So that's how you pick a knife, that's how you chop stuff. Chef's knife, Santoku, Western handle, Japanese handle, dollar store handle. What else?
Awesome.
All right. I don't get applause very often. So there we go.
All right, let's cook.
Welcome to Spice Club.
Okay, are we cutting this off?
We're done.
All right.
See you next time.
She's